all-new Yamaha V6 Offshore F350. It's a featherweight knockout, the lightest 350 horsepower outboard on the water, exhilarating boating and incredible control in a powerfully light design. The Yamaha V6 Offshore F350.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's June 13th, which also happens to be my birthday. These are your headlines. First and foremost, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there from all of us here at the Fisherman magazine. We're hearing about some good tuna action out around the Cape, and we're hearing about some really big striped bass being caught around Newport, Rhode Island. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. The first one comes to us thanks to an interesting catch. This was an Atlantic sturgeon caught by Kevin Medeiros up on Plum Island. And I just wanted to point out a few things that Kevin did right here. First of all, Atlantic sturgeon are highly protected and they can't even be lifted out of the water for a photo. So if you catch one, don't pick it up and take a picture and put it on your Instagram because you might get a summons in the mail. And that's not even a joke. Kevin kept the fish in the water, had a friend take some pictures while he was unhooking the fish. Looks to be about 4 or 5 feet long, which is an interesting catch. But they, with that level of protection, they need to be released, unhooked and released right away. Kevin did the right thing there. And I just wanted to highlight that because you never know. There are sturgeon in the Connecticut River. There's sturgeon all, up in Massachusetts. There's sturgeon up in Maine. And I've even seen a few wash up on the shore in Rhode Island. So they are around, and they're just common enough where it's important that you know the rules. So those are the rules. Next thing, we're going to check in with Jim Hutchinson. We had the Manhattan Cup last weekend, which is an exciting tournament. Here he is with a breakdown.
60 pounds. Mike Dean, regular contributor to the Fisherman's weekly video fishing forecast out of Long Island, has broken the Manhattan Cup record for largest striped bass ever in that event, taping out at 47 inches with a chunky 32-inch girth. I gotta wonder if this fish ever dropped her eggs. The calculations for estimating weight, length times girth divided by 800 put Dean's tournament-winning fish at 60.16 pounds. It was caught aboard Captain Adrian Muller's Brooklyn-based Rockfish charters. Congrats. Now this Manhattan Cup, as every one of them, is a first-class event, from the check-in breakfast to the final awards. The winner of the Christopher J. Raguso Memorial Cup for the wounded service veteran with the largest striper was Dwayne Lalathan, with another monster striper estimated at 52.56 pounds, 50 inches in length, and a 29-inch girth. That was caught aboard Captain Willie Davis's Epic One. Congrats, Captain Willie. Now, Don Meyer caught the largest striper on an artificial 29.61 pounds with Captain Anthony Grassi aboard fin chaser Makyra. Roger Raw also tallied a big bait bass of 52.56 pounds aboard Captain Frank Giesi's Greta. Captain Andy Lacasio of Long Island Fishing Charters won a gray striper mount for largest average length of 5 striped bass tagged with Grayfish Tag Research streamer tags. He also had the top prize for most stripers caught by an angler named John O'Brien. Top bluefish caught and released at the Manhattan Cup. Joe Albanese took top honors, 10.66 pounds for largest on an artificial, fishing with Captain Frank Crescitelli aboard the fin chaser, with Jose Enchotegui grabbing largest bluefish on bait, 10.08 pounds aboard Captain Adam Frank's Legal Sea. Now, there's also a largest bluefish on the fly that was angled by Bill Dawson, 4.93 pounds, fishing with another regular contributor to the Fisherman magazine, Captain Mike Century, aboard Anglers of Legends Sportfish. Now, proceeds from the Manhattan Cup benefit veterans of our nation's armed forces, along with local charities and organizations, including Grayfish Tag Research and our annual Northeast Striped Bass Study. 60.16 pounds. Congratulations, Mike Dean.
Now we're going to throw it over to Jenni Ackerman for her latest installment of Open Boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Now, last week I talked about a sea bass rig that I like to use, and I hinted at the one jig to rule them all while sea bass fishing. Hopefully that week span gave you time to think about what jig I was going to be talking about, because now's the time to talk about the diamond jig. Now, Why do I like using a diamond jig while sea bass fishing? The diamond jigs get to the bottom faster. They fight through strong underwater current, so you can jig up some nice knuckleheads. They have a single hook. That's my pet peeve. I love fishing single hooks on lures. It just makes your life so much easier. Your hookup ratio may be altered. I mean, if you're like surf fishing, but sea bass, you're set with this. So you have that single hook, which makes it easier when you're flinging in sea bass. You can literally just grab the jig itself and plop the sea bass off. Easy peasy, fill the box, lemon squeezy. Now, although I'm sitting in the shade here, you can still see the shine of the diamond jig. When that jig gets down to the bottom and you're jigging it, it flutters a little and it'll make that flash. So it looks like a bait fish, and sea bass cannot resist that. I bet you if I put this thing over my koi pond behind me, the freaking koi would be going nuts. They think it's a giant Cheerio bait fish that they want to feast on. But the sea bass can't resist a good old diamond jig. Now you can range in the ounces. This one's a 3-ouncer here. You can go 2, 3, 4, up to like 8 ounces, depending on the conditions, how deep you are, stuff like that. Now, I'm a big history buff. If you read my article about bucktailing in the surf, there was a whole paragraph talking about the history of the bucktail. Because if you do your research on these things, a lot of these lures and rods and reels and different aspects of fishing are just rich with history. And it's so much fun to learn and just share all these fun facts with you guys. But this is just the history buff and me geeking out. But so the diamond jig, history of it. It's been around for almost 100 years. It was first created in the 1920s by a guy out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. So shout out New Englanders. His name was John Schmook. And he worked for a toy company, but he created the diamond jig. And they dubbed it the Bridgeport diamond jig. Now today, of course, there's a ton of different companies making their own and just like different variants of the diamond jig, stuff like that. But this one has been a pinnacle sea bass crusher for over 100 years. So you can pick yourself up one of these. If you want to use, you can use a spinning rod. A lot of guys are big fans of slow pitch jigging when it comes to sea bass fishing. So get out there, you got your rig set up, you got your jig now, catch some knuckleheads. I'll see you guys on next week's Open Boat.
And now the Dream Boat Fishing Challenge entries for the week. In the Sea Robin category, we had 4 entries. There was Ahmed Solomon, a Long Island subscriber, weighing in his catch at 3.25 pounds, taking the top spot, putting Dan Solomon into second place. Kyle Kraus, also a Long Island subscriber, enters his second entry with his Sea Robin at 2.2 pounds, putting him into 6th place, but not enough to bump Anthony Savino out of 5th. Taking the 7th spot is another Long Island subscriber, Joseph Yam, with his Sea Robin weighing in at 2.10 pounds, putting him into 2nd place on the leaderboard. And we have a Jersey subscriber, Johnny Rouse, with his entry coming in at 2 pounds. Placing 2nd with his fluke entry is Long Island subscriber Richard Rubio, coming in at 7.56 pounds. This week's leaderboard standing is Anthony Savino at 19 points, Joseph Yam with 12 points, knocking Frank Shea into 3rd with 10 points. Just a reminder, for your chance to win the grand prize Steigercraft powered by Yamaha and other great prizes, you need to be a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine and use the 2024 entry form filled out completely, available at thefisherman.com/contests.
Last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which we're giving away a flat-glide needlefish made by me in sort of a green apple chartreuse color. Really nice color that I like to fish, so hopefully one of you guys will enjoy fishing it as well. Getting lots of photos right now, which is great. It's going to be a good competition. And if you guys don't know the drill, it's pretty easy stuff. You just got to take a picture of you holding your fish. You can text it to me at the number on the screen, or you can send it to me at thefisherman.com, at danderson@thefisherman.com, sorry. And the only thing you got to do is just give me your name and the pertinent details. So where it was caught, the size of the fish, things like that. And on July 26th, if my memory serves, we're going to pick a new winner. So get those photos in and we'll see who wins. Moving over to the reports now. I'm getting a lot of great reports out of Maine right now with some really big striped bass in the 40 to 50 inch class. There's some really nice fish up there right now. Seems to be the beginning of a trend we've been seeing over the last few years. That Maine just gets a really good run of summertime fish, and this is just the start of it. So definitely keep your eyes on that. Dropping over the border now, we're going to check in quick with James Jewkes.
Just sitting up here on Plum Island at the Lot 5 overlook. No beach access up here yet. We gotta wait till August, these damn birds. But it's always nice to come out and check things out and see how things are going up here. It's absolutely spectacular. Anybody ever get a chance to take their family up to Plum Island, I suggest it. Anyways, spent 4 days out on Cuddy Hunk. It's pretty slow out there. We had a pretty big swell. Couldn't get to the rocks I really enjoy. We still got plenty of fish, nothing huge. Some of the other guys I talked to out there too, the same thing. Pretty steady. But while we were on Cuddy Hunk, a couple of buddies up here were hitting some rather nice fish. My buddy Sam had one that was 45 inches. My buddy Aaron had some mid 30-inch fish. And some of the bait guys are hitting fish too on that new moon cycle. Seems the last couple of days though, things have slowed up a bit. I know myself, I'll be out in the North Shore area tonight. Again, can't help but going. Freshwater guys, it's been pretty slow. They've all been steady picking. I think this might be some of the time of the year where the guys try and get some of the honeydew lists around the house done before summer really hits. But like I said, if you're a striper guy, this is prime time. I did have some other fish last week before we went to Cuddy, but we'll see what happens on this upcoming week of this quarter moon. A lot of guys shy away from the quarter moon, but up here we got 8 to 11 foot tides depending upon the moon, and this quarter moon we'll probably see around 8.5 foot tides, so there's still plenty of water moving around. I'm sure I'll find some. My buddies will find some. The guys who put in their time will find some. And I heard too that they were getting them live eels, sluggos, needlefish. A few guys were fishing metal lips. The bait guys were on the mackerel and clams. I didn't hear any guys fishing worms, but I know they do. So, but yeah, that's about it from up here. Just pretty mellow, enjoying myself. Oh yeah. This coming weekend's Father's Day weekend. I hope everybody can be good and behave and take the family out. Plum Island has the Parker River Wildlife Refuge has a Let's Go Out on Saturday, 10 to 1. There'll be some fishing. The kids will be able to play around with a little archery. There'll be various stations around the refuge for some instructions on different things. It's always a good time. A bunch of us Plum Islanders will be out there at Lot 1 doing some fishing. Other than that, Dave, all is good. Enjoy.
It was another exciting week in the Coastal Kayak Clash with 3 fish hitting the board. New York's William Mabanta moved up to second place in the fluke category with his 24.75-inch fluke. Jason Oser kept the pressure on with his category-leading 21.25-inch sea bass. And Tom Howard of Rhode Island had the biggest fish of the week with a 47-inch cow striped bass. The top three looks like this. Tom Howard now sits in third place with 5 points. Bob Wagner holds steady in second place with 6 points. And Justin Oser maintains a strong lead with 9 points. To get all the information on how to enter, visit thefisherman.com/contests.
Now we're going to head inland and we're going to check in at Wachusett Reservoir, where I've mostly been hearing about good smallmouth bass fishing, but we got this awesome photo from Jim D'Angelo, and this is a 15-pound 3-ounce lake trout, and just wanted to congratulate him on an awesome catch. This is his 7th over 10 pounds out of Wachusett, and also his personal best. And I just wanted to highlight that too, because, you know, it's Father's Day this weekend. If you can't get to the shore, or if you're just a freshwater guy and that's what you prefer, Wachusett might be a good place to check out this weekend. Lots of species there, and I always like fishing Wachusett because you never know how big the fish could be, and I mean, what proves it better than that? And then we're going to head back toward Boston. Boston Harbor's been pretty good. There was some finicky bites in there for a few days from what I've been hearing, and then it just really fired up over the last few days. We saw fish from like 35 up to 45 inches. I'm sure there's even some bigger fish in the mix. Some bunker around, which is fueling some of these blitzes. And guys are doing well on flutter spoons on the dock, and of course on the real McCoy, just swimming some bunker or swimming a live eel. The North River has been a good spot for surf fishermen, seeing a lot of fish like in the mid to upper 30-inch class coming out of that area. Some larger fish for the boat guys out on the ledges. Jumping over the canal, there's been the striped bass bite along those beaches has cooled off a little bit. Actually, it's cooled off considerably. And but if you get, and there's still a lot of bait along those beaches, I meant to mention that, but if you get around the tip, kind of getting down toward Wellfleet again, there was a decent bite for a couple days on one of the beaches out there, so that might be the beginning of the summer run of stripers out on the Cape, which is exciting. Nothing big was caught from what I heard, maybe a couple slot-sized fish, but it was a good push of fish, which is great to see. We have no report from the goose this week, but I did see that there's been a lot more tuna action out around the Cape, so that bite is beginning, and hopefully I'll have a little bit more detail next week about where it's all taking place. But for now, it's just going to have to be excited that the tuna bite is firing up off the Cape. Out around Nantucket, the striped bass fishing has been exceptional. A lot of topwater action with some squid in the rips out there, which has really made for some exciting fishing. Same thing can be said for the rips off of Monomoy too. We're seeing same classes of fish, nothing really big, but fish up to like 40, 42 inches, and just lots and lots of action, which is awesome. I'm not getting fluke reports from Nantucket Shoal yet. Might just not be talking to the right guys, either that or they're all just laser focused on that striper bite right now. But June is usually the best time to fish out there, so if you've been out there, send us a report. We'd love to hear it. Heading around into Buzzards Bay, we are seeing a surprising absence of striped bass in Buzzards Bay right now. There are bunker around. There's some bunker up in some of the estuaries, which are holding a small number of like 20-pound striped bass, but we're just not seeing the numbers that we usually see for mid-June in Buzzards Bay right now. Heading up toward the canal, let's check in now with East End Eddie.
Good morning, Dave. Another beautiful day here in the world-famous Cape Cod Canal. Got the tail end of a west dropping tide behind me. It'll be slack pretty soon. And last week, the new moon ushered in some breaking tides, and I was fishing next to 30 guys that morning. And but it looked good because fish started breaking right in front of us. It wasn't like an all-out blitz, but it was enough fish that you thought we were going to do well. But it turned out that only one guy landed a fish. Ray Aracho from New Jersey caught a slot with a blue Mac Magic Swimmer. We had some, well-placed lures and good presentations. The guys who knew what they were doing, and yet the fish just wouldn't eat. Sometimes the fish are fussy, as you know. So I was happy for Ray, though. And the next day I caught a slot around the same time as Hollywood Petrarca landed one. Hollywood was throwing his Mystic Intrepid, and I was bouncing my White Bill Hurley Canal Killer off the bottom, my favorite jig. And so 13-year-old Cody Rice had a good day, caught 7 fish, and 2 of them were 40-inch beauties. Cody's from Connecticut. He fishes here with his father and his grandfather, Ron Rice, who's a great fisherman, a good guy. And Cody was using a Joe Baggs Green Mac swatter, and so I was happy for Cody. He's a good kid. And Glenn Lucky Cigar Lindsay did well the other day with his Daiwa SP Minnow Green Mac. He caught a slot and then he landed a 33-inch. We call him Lucky Cigar because the smell of the cigar smells good, and it also keeps the bugs away. Just want to make an announcement that Julio Silva will be putting on a presentation for the Plum Island Surfcasters next week, Tuesday, June 18th at 7 p.m. Julio is a great speaker and a terrific fisherman, so that will be very interesting. The title of his seminar is Cape Cod Canal, Confessions of a Cow Hunter. And so don't miss that. It should be very good. And so my tip of the week is when you finish fishing and you're walking up that rip-rap stone bank, you're climbing up, just be careful you don't have your rod pointed in front of you, especially as you crest the hill, because there could be traffic going by, guys on bikes and people pushing baby carriages and running and whatnot. And so as you're coming up the hill, your concentration is going to be on your feet to make sure you got good footing. So you might not notice all this stuff going on in front of you. So as you get to the crest of the hill, just make sure you have your rod sticking straight up in the air so it doesn't stick in traffic. And so, you know, fishing's fun, and I always try to report on positive aspects of it, but unfortunately I have to tell you a tough story today. Some morally bankrupt reprobate decided that it was a good idea to put a picnic table right in the middle of the service road on the Cape side near Uptuxet. And it was probably more than one because more than one guy, because picnic tables are pretty heavy, and he actually put one picnic table on top of the other. There's two of them, and he strung a fishing line across the service road right in front of it, a taut fishing line. So that was sometime after midnight, about 2 in the morning, a guy comes riding his bike, a fisherman's riding his bike heading east from Bell Road, and he crashes. The front tire goes into the fishing line. He ends up flying over the handlebars and crashes right into the picnic tables. Facial lacerations, and but it could have been worse. He could have been killed. Could have been even more seriously injured. So I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I hope the police find this guy. He belongs behind bars, or guys. It probably was more than one. And I don't like talking about negativity, but I thought it was worth a warning for anybody, because just be careful when you're riding your bike. If you don't have a headlight on the front, just go slow enough to be able to react to anything that's in front of you. So until next time, catch a big one.
Heading out into western Buzzards Bay, striped bass have been harder to come by out that way as well, but we are seeing a decent number of fluke, and the sea bass bite has been really good from New Bedford all the way out to the Rhode Island border. And that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Crossing over into Rhode Island now, we'll start things off with an East Bay report from TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Dave. Hey guys, nice to be back again. We're going to start off this week. We're going to start off in Maho Bay, and it's no secret right now. There is tons and tons of pogies up inside of the Taunton River, between Fall River and Somerset, from the Vets Bridge all the way back to the Braga Bridge, and just further out to up to Borden Lighthouse Marine. If you're in there, there's lots of boats in there, snagging, cast netting. There's even a commercial boat in there. If you don't want to do any of that, you can just buy some bait from them. And along with those pogies, there's some big bass inside the river too. I mean, they're not huge, but they're bass that are in the 30-inch range. Not huge, but hey, nice fish to catch. They're in there. You can do some damage on them if you're up inside the Taunton River. Moving out into some of Maho Bay, getting towards Spar Island, and a little bit of the Kickmewett River. There's also some bass in there, meandering around. Just a little bit smaller. There are some schools of smaller bass inside of Maho Bay, headed towards Bristol Harbor and underneath the Maho Bridge. Also, good reports of some scup, some bigger scup moved in, and you can catch those scup on some either clam tongue, some squid, any crustaceans that you have that even bite crabs. There actually have been some nice to tug in the mix while scup fishing, but you can't keep them. But just saying, if you're out there and you're scup fishing, you might land one of those bigger to tug underneath the Maho Bridge. Moving up into the Sakana River Bridge, there's also been some nice scup bites from both the railroad bridges in there. Just be careful in there. It's very snarly, and you can get hung up pretty quickly. Moving up the Sakonnet, I got a couple reports from some of my buddies that have been fishing from their boats. Done well on some smaller fluke up near Fogland Point, and my friend Joe has been out in his boat, and he's been doing okay with the fluke there. A lot of sea robins, though, he said. A lot of sea robins to get through. So up into the Barrington River, I had a couple outings there myself. There are some nice striped bass just kind of hanging around, and I've been kind of catching them on the almost high to slack high tide. And I've been fishing kind of around the dock areas on Matheson Street, and I've been doing well in those little rips that are that you can see when you're walking up and down the street. So 5-inch paddle tails in white have been working. Some top water and a 4-inch top water have been working in the Barrington River. Warren River is the same thing. There's been some good reports of some striped bass and some of the bridge currents there. So there's lots of opportunities in the East Bay and some opportunities in Maho Bay. And I did have one outing on Friday night, and I got out to do a little. We started out doing some striper fishing, but we quickly transitioned to some sea bass right outside of Dartmouth, Paynton Harbor, and we did pretty well. We had more quantity over quality, but it was a great little outing for Friday night. So we'll catch you guys next week. Tight lines.
The big news coming out of Rhode Island this week is a push of like large to super large striped bass that has moved in around Newport and Jamestown. These fish are pretty much only being caught from a boat. A few surf guys have found a way to get in on it, just hitting some of those really deep spots. But for the most part, it's a boat and kayak game, and there have been some absolutely titanic fish from like the smallest fish I'm hearing about are around 40 inches. The biggest I've heard of so far is 51 inches. And I have to believe that there's probably a couple of 50-pound fish out there that were either already caught or are ready to be caught, because the bite's been insane. Guys are doing it a lot of different ways. They're doing it on top water with things like the dock. They're doing it with some metal lips. I've heard of a couple guys getting them on metal lips. Big soft plastics, fished on lead heads have been getting them. And of course, live eels have been crushing it. And I bet you can get them on the flutter spoon as well. So just a really great striped bass bite taking place out around Newport. So definitely want to take a look at that. Heading up into the bay a little bit now, let's check in quickly with Jeff Sullivan from Lucky Bait and Tackle.
What's up, Dave? What's going on, guys? Just going to give you guys a quick report this week of what we've been doing in our camp. We went out yesterday morning and had an epic day of topwater fishing. We got fish up to 44 pounds on top water. I mean, there's just big bass just exploding everywhere. We had to hoax. It's even better when you mark them and then you don't see them on top water and then get them to eat top water. And they're even more pissed off, and it's just a better explosion in my opinion. But yeah, we had a great day topwater fishing, or a great morning, I should say. And then we end up going over to some fluke fishing, and fluke fishing was phenomenal. Surprisingly. It's good to see these big fluke back in our backyard again. All I have to say is just my advice and my tip of the day, or the week I should say, is be more thorough and be patient. Just if you're not getting production out of your usual fluke spots, go over it again, and then one more time after that. If you don't think you drifted enough, do another drift, or do another one. If you think you did too many drifts, do another one. Because something, big fluke are smart. They got their ways, but you can only hang a bait over the top of a big fluke for so long before he's going to hit it. So it's one of those things where you know, you want to be more thorough with what you put down there, but at the same time, you don't know because you don't know what they're going to hit. But at the same time, go with your gut, go with what you're confident in, and just be more thorough. Pay attention to slopes, sandy bottoms, broken bottom to sandy contour. Those are contour changes. And pay attention to the depth finder too. What depth you're getting more fluke in. If you're finding a lot of shorts, weave them out. Just suck it up, weave them out. And there's big ones that sit right in with those smaller ones. The smaller ones are just more willing to hit those baits than the bigger fluke are. So just keep going over the drifts, keep weaving out the small ones, and you will get a big one. Just stay patient. That's all I have to say. Yeah, so, I mean, the sea bass bite's been good. The fluke bite's been excellent. The bass bite's been good, Dave. You know, you scup guys out there, scup's been good. I mean, I found a lot of weak fish in a cove the other night in the surf, and I was scooping them up by my hands, and the big bass were slurping them down. They were eating them down. It's good to see juvenile squetig around. I think I was texting you, Dave, the other day. We were talking about it, and man, it's awesome to see squetig back. And I was talking to a guy at the shop, and he was saying he caught 17 squetig over in Warwick, which was great. Great thing to see. Now they're on the incline. So, yeah, surf fishing's been good. This is the eel moon. The new moon is my favorite time of year, hands down. I don't care what time of year it is. This is the time of year. It's the eel moon. It's the big bass moon. This is it. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. The big bass are here. No waiting around. Cannot catch them on the couch. Get up off your feet. Go out and fish. Get some sun. Get out there. Get some wildlife in you. And get those drags peeling. That's all I have to say. But with that being said, I just got back in from fishing myself. So, same time next week. All right, guys, go get them.
Heading out of the bay, we are seeing some nice fluke coming out of inshore waters, some of them around Jamestown, and a lot more fluke action out off the South County beaches where that bite has really fired up. What I have heard from Block Island is that the fluke bite's been a little tougher out there over the last week or so. So it's good to see these fish moving inshore. Along the South County beach, a lot of shorts, but guys that are picking through them are pulling a limit, and they are seeing some really nice fish. In fact, Jeff Sullivan had a beauty, 11.5 pounds this week, but I feel like that guy could catch fish in his bathtub. So that may not be typical, but it is an awesome catch. And then heading out to Block Island, I have heard that the striped bass action is starting up, seeing some fish up into the 40-pound class now. Haven't heard of tons of guys heading out to the ledge, but those fish are starting to move in as they typically do in the, moving into the second half of June. So here we go again with big bass at Block. And then the last thing, back up along the South County beaches, has been some nice bluefish along there, and there's been a surprising number of large striped bass moving along the beaches as well. Guys are getting them from the breachways, guys are doing it from the boats, and the Watch Hill reefs have been a really good place to go throw some big soft plastics and hook up with a good fish. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Moving over into Connecticut now, one of the big things that we're seeing pretty much from the Connecticut River all the way to the Rhode Island border is a lack of bunker. That has a lot of hardcore bass fishermen worried. We're not seeing the numbers of stripers that we usually see around the Connecticut River, and we're not seeing the numbers or sizes of stripers that we usually see around the Thames either. There are fish in both of those locations. There are stripers around. We're just not seeing that consistency to the bite, and we're not seeing the size that we typically expect to see. So guys are having to, mix things up a little bit and, use some different techniques, using a lot more live eels than they typically have had to, or they're heading out to the race where the bite has been exceptional. Diamond jigs have been crushing it, live eels, bucktails, flutter spoons, they've all been getting it done out there. That would be a great place to go on Father's Day as long as we've got the weather, because there's lots of fish, there's lots of room, and you can do it so many different ways. Sea bass action inside of Long Island Sound has been, it's been decent. The much better bottom species to be chasing right now is porgies. Guys have been doing really well on porgies. There have been some up and down days, of course, but that's fishing, that's what you expect. But the porgy action has been good, and over the next 2 weeks we should see those fish moving inshore, and that shore bite should start to fire up. And man, these last like 6 or 7 years, the shore bite in Connecticut has been borderline legendary for porgies. So you do have that to look forward to coming up toward the end of this month. Now that we're moving up closer to the Connecticut River, let's check in quickly with Captain Mike Roy from Real Cast Charters.
Hey, what's up everybody? This week's fishing report, the striped bass fishing remains good. There's a plethora of bait out on all the reefs in Long Island Sound. I've seen Atlantic mackerel, whiting, butterfish out there, and we're getting more adult bunker, and as predictable, the striper bite is improving with the amount of bait. If you don't have bait, the soft plastics like finesse fish and sluggos have been working really well. More bluefish starting to show up day by day. Seems like we're getting more blues that are chomping our baits and lures up. And the black sea bass fishing is off to a pretty good start. That's all I have for you. Good luck.
And Rowan is still away on his fishing vacation, so we don't have a report from him, but we can check in quickly with Matt Stone from Black Hall Outfitters. Here he is.
What's up everyone, Matt here from Black Hall Outfitters with this week's fishing report, coming to you from my fish cave in the garage. Things are getting slowly better. We've been in a little bit more of a holding pattern than I think we anticipated. It does have that feeling that things are a little bit behind this year. Water's still a little colder than we'd like it to be, and we're hearing just whisperings of bunker here and there, but nothing really substantial. But it really can take like a tide cycle or a day or even, a few hours for that to change. Those bunker are near. They're just out in deeper water as far as we know. Luckily, though, the fish are out there with them. Guys who are hitting the reefs, doing any sort of spoons, diamond jigs, three-way eels, three-way bucktails, or if you are finding some bunker, three-weighing those guys out there has been awesome. A lot of really good reports coming in from the reefs. Also some really good topwater action. Some shop guys got into some excellent topwater stuff way out there in the shallow parts of the reefs, which is great to hear. Sea bass, very strong. Those guys are going well. Handful of days left before our brief 2-week closure for Connecticut on those guys. So get out there. They're on sand waves, they're on reefs. 70 plus or so has been the depth for them. Fluke 40 plus, guys are doing well. Still lots of good fluke reports, lots of good sea bass reports, and porgy reports improving as well. So it's starting to feel like summer out there, and I hope everyone has a great week of fishing.
Heading west from there, more fluke reports seem to be coming from the west end of the sound, but most of those fish are being caught still on the New York side. Few starting to leak over onto our side. Also, your best options for sea bass are out toward the ends of those reefs in the central western sound. Just make sure you don't cross the border into New York waters because it's not open yet over there. And then heading out to the extreme western sound, still lots of big bass being caught out there. Almost seems like that bite just isn't going to end. For a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
I've been fishing a lot this past week on the backside of this new moon. The striped bass fishing is excellent right now. There's fish all over the surface in the morning on our deep water reefs like 28, 11B. The OB buoy is still really consistent. Green's Ledge has been really good. There's a lot of bunker really pushing in shallow now, and they're starting to bring some fish around the islands. We've seen some fish, that mid-teen to high 20, maybe low 30-pound class, shallow casting around the islands with docks, small poppers. People are chunking now shallow. Behind Kopecky has a lot of bait, and it has a lot of fish over there. So Can 24 has been really good, real local. If you're trying to do a quick trip, get on some bass, 10 minutes out in Norwalk Marina. And then the bluefish are really starting to set up on our reefs too. We've had them mixed in on the flutter spoons, top water, and they're just a blast to catch. Fluke fishing remains the same as last week. I say it's a little still better across. Guys are still pounding Eaton's Neck, the Coast Guard Station, Huntington, Port Jeff, Smithtown Bay. Locally, we've seen some nice fish, but you really got to work. So Can 26, 24, and then shallow off of Sherwood Island. Squid, spearing, smelt seem to be the ticket. The fluke are, keyed in. We have sand eels around. Across, there's a lot more sand eels, so they're really on the bait. Sea bass fishing remains steady on our deep water wrecks, though. We haven't heard of anything really less than 50 foot, so Cable and Anchor Reef, 28C, the deep part of Green's Ledge, and 11B. Porgies now are starting to flood in. I've seen some from the beaches, Norwalk Pier on sandworms, so that's good. This should only get better as our waters progressively get warmer. And then guys on their boat are doing well too. They're finding limits. Now you don't have to go across. They're all on our side of the reefs. I would say 30 to 50 foot right now is really good. Remember to bring clam chum. That really helps to keep the fish on your boat, and you can get your bag limit. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there this Father's Day weekend. I wanted to point something out really quickly. I usually wear a fisherman hat, but this week I got my Converse hat on because this one was customized for me with my dad's initials. You may remember that I had to say goodbye to my dad 2 years ago, so this is my little tribute to him. I wear this every time I fish, and it just keeps him close to my heart. So it's been a really special thing for me, and it's made for a great season so far. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. You get a full taste of what we offer. We cover all the fishing from Delaware to Maine and every fishing discipline that you can think of, saltwater, freshwater, and everything in between. But after you check that out, if you're still not interested in the subscription, it's $29.95 for the year, which would be a great Father's Day gift, by the way. At the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing right there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.